Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Season 3. We had a great start for Season 3 with Nick Royer, MRFC, sharing with us how we can have a perpetual lead source and many more best practices that he does in his firm. Ang ganda nung sinabi niya, balikan nyo if hindi nyo napanood, because he started in a place of marketing. Actually, anyone can use this hindi lang sa financial industry Tapos, chinop-chop niya yun into 3, and then, inano rin niya kung paano makikip sa funnel ang mga, kasi we know naman na ang mga clients natin, hindi agad bibili yan right in the first place. So, paano mo siya makip in that funnel para in the future, pag kailangan niya na, dun siya kukuha. Okay? Our episodes are shown every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. That is why it's important to follow us on FB. Episodes are pre-recorded and will be broadcasted through FB Live. We are your hosts. I'm Coach John Dizon, a registered financial consultant and a life coach from NLP Manila.
I'm Boyet Benavides, the president of IARC Philippines, and sitting in as co-anchor for John and Kuya Ryan this season.
I am Kuya Ryan Daes, a registered financial consultant, a chartered wealth manager, and a registered estate planner.
Yan.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us again, Sir Boyet. Ayan.
Thank you for having me.
Kasama.
So, mainstay ako this season.
A whole season.
Pagpasensyahan nyo na muna.
No
Okay lang.
pasensya needed. We love you here, Sir Boy.
I hope
Actually,
I'm a worthy replacement to Louie and Francis.
It's pretty much an honor that you are part of the anchor. So,
and we love your wisdom here.
I'm happy to be here and to join you guys. And syempre, we have a lineup of international speakers who will share with us their thoughts, their ideas, their experiences. And these are all seasoned RFCs. So at least makikita natin yung aspiration natin to be like one of them. Diba? To be like them in terms of their experience, in terms of their profession.
Correct.
tama yun, sir. Yung sinabi mo, sir, na season kasi parang yung guest natin ngayon, more than 20 years. Hindi lang yata 20 years ang experience. It seems. So, we have to thank Miss Susan Tapa of IARC USA Public Relations for helping us set this up para ma-arrange na ang season 3 ng RFC Tuesday podcast is already international.
Yes.
Siyempre, wag nating kalimutan, kailangan rin natin pasalamatan yung ating bagong videographer, video editor, etc., si Eddie, who is given out of love, loaned out of love, Mr. Bong Escobar, who has been recording and editing our videos since the first episode of season 3.
Thank you so much. All right, so before we introduce our special guest tonight, meron muna akong question kasi nag-CE daw kayo, continuing education, hindi ako nakasali. So it was with Rick Stanzione, and I heard na ang haba ng Q&A session and very interesting. So for people like me, IARC member, na hindi nakapag-attend, I would like to ask Sir Boyet. Sir Boyet, meron ba dyang recording that we can watch?
Magkakaroon sana ng part 2 si Rick. No? We'll probably invite him again so that he can share his ideas on how to create your holistic financial planning practice. So for those who missed it, we'll invite him again, but make sure that you have renewed your membership so that you will be able to attend our free continuing education sessions from now and the future. So it's very important. We have very, very good speakers. Everybody was taking notes. ang dami niyang, he shared a lot to the attendees. So make sure that you're a member and
Right.
you will take advantage of the expertise of our fellow RFCs. Right now, we have our US-based RFC resources. Then hopefully, we'll be able to get from our Asian RFC resources as well. So everybody watch out for it.
Amazing.
Sir Bayet, clarify ko lang, tama ba yung narinig ko? If we are active members, all of these continuing education will be free moving forward.
Yes. These are all for active, registered RFC members. So make sure you renew your membership and you stay active in the organization. This is one of the advantages and the values of being an active member.
Yep.
Okay. Dati, nagbabayad pa tayo to attend continuing education. Now, it's for free. So it really puts more value in the membership of IARFC. So
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
Thank you to the board for doing this for all of us.
No, and these
So
are
happy.
these are exclusive events. I mean, these are people who would probably find it difficult to fly to the Philippines, but because of
Yeah.
our new normal, our borderless society now, we're able to invite them and they're able to share with us their experience and their wisdom.
Amazing. So, renew dahil sobrang worth it siya. It's for us, for education sa atin, continuing, and for our clients. Ayan. So, Kuya Ryan, ano nga ba?
So again, we have to greet our of course, our watchers. Yan, yung mga regulars natin dyan, syempre sila Tita Arlene nandyan. And
course,
who would forget yung equally stunning sister ng ating executive producer na
Yes.
si Miss Faith Rivera, di ba?
I miss Faith.
At syempre, huwag natin kalimutan tawagin si Sir Boyet, si Sir Bong, si Sir Bong na tumulong sa ating i-edit itong video natin.
Thank
And
you
of
so
course,
much.
our co-anchors na hindi pa makakasama sa atin, sina Louie, sina Francis, at saka si Andre. Ayan.
Andre,
We really miss you guys.
we miss you guys.
We miss you guys.
Good evening, RFC and friends. Tonight, the podcast promises to be another interesting episode for us, another learning session for us. Tonight, we're very fortunate to have Mr. Barry Daly, who is a CFP and an MRFC. He joined Money Concepts in 1981 and had the privilege to work directly with the founding fathers of Money Concepts in building the company. From 1986 to 1997, he worked with Kuna Mutual Group in establishing and building a financial planning program for credit unions. He has helped hundreds of financial institutions establish financial planning and wealth management businesses to serve their members or customers. So upon returning to Money Concepts in 1998, Barry has served as Senior Vice President, where he headed the Financial Institution Division and is currently the Executive Vice President of the company. He teaches ethics courses for Money Concepts and other industry organizations, including the IRFC, during the conferences. So representing Money Concepts, a multi-year corporate sponsor for the IRFC National Financial Plan Competition, he has presented awards to the finalists. Barry is a graduate of Brigham Young University with a degree in financial and estate planning. He worked as an independent financial planner for 6 years prior to being appointed to the headquarters staff of Money Concepts. Barry is a certified financial planner, and a master registered financial consultant. So guys, let's all welcome Mr. Barry Daly. Good evening. Good evening, Barry.
Good evening. Good. It's really great to be with everybody. Thank you for that kind introduction, Sir Boya.
Barry, just to start things off, why is it important for us as financial planning, financial consultants to be concerned about ethics? How is it important in our practice?
Very good question, and it's a great place to start. We think about ethics, and when people hear the word ethics, sometimes they don't really understand the importance and the power that comes behind that word. But ethics is really a way to be. And in our business, we have to be this way. It's not how we behave, it's who we are. Mm-hmm. It's acting in an ethical way. And so what I'd like to do is I would like to share a story with you. Would that be okay?
Sure. Yep.
All right. A couple of years ago, I was climbing with some friends in the Teton Mountain Range in Wyoming. I love to climb and do mountaineering, and it's just such an exhilarating experience. And we left in the morning, and we climbed up to about 11,000 feet, and then we camped for the night. We got up at 2:30 in the morning for our summit bid, and we climbed up to the lower saddle, and then we climbed up this very rocky, very steep rock face to the upper saddle. And then we got to the point where we had to climb with ropes and technical gear. And here I was the lead climber. And it's quite, get your full attention. It's quite scary when you're up there and you look over your shoulder, and it's 2,500 feet straight down. So we're up there, and I'm the lead climber. And one of the beauties of climbing a mountain is you have the opportunity to climb with other people that you completely trust. Mm-hmm. And when you climb, the lead climber, which I was that day, you climb ahead and you place anchors in the rock. And then a person below you is known as your belay person. Mm-hmm. This is a person that's going to prevent you from falling off the mountain. And so I was on this pitch. I was about 35 feet above him, and it was very icy. And I slipped on the ice, and I fell. And I fell about 8 feet, and I slammed against the rock. And fortunately, when I fell, my good belay person, Matt, was below, and he caught me. He stopped my fall. And I was able to correct myself, and we eventually made it to the summit. And I've fortunately been to that summit many times since then. But the point I want to make with this story is my belay person, Matt, he had my life in his hands. I had to have complete trust in him. And so when I talk about ethics, it's about trust. Ethics is really about giving up to someone else who's a professional in financial planning, personal information, your goals and your dreams and your hopes and your fears. And you have to trust that person. And the only way that person can earn trust is to act in an ethical way, to be ethical.
So that's very interesting, Barry. Well, it is true that the financial planning practice revolves around trust because we sell concepts, right, in our practice. And the question is, how has the concept of ethics evolved in the U.S. during your career? You have quite an illustrious career, and for sure we will learn a lot. We can learn a lot from you. I hope you can share that with us tonight.
Well, the evolution of financial planning, or the evolution of ethics in financial planning, has been really interesting to watch. My father was in the financial planning or in the life insurance business when I was a boy. And as a boy, every Saturday morning, he had people in his office, other associates in his office for training. And his office is in our home. And so I could hear from my bedroom, there was an adjoining wall, I could hear the meeting going on early Saturday morning. It was a sales meeting. And the people were always full of energy and full of excitement. And one person was giving a presentation. And he was talking about selling life insurance. And he said, we need to see them and we need to sell them. And then he said, the public have our money in their pockets and we need to go out and make the exchange. Now, I remember that as a boy hearing that, and it wasn't evil. These were not bad people, but the industry has changed. Back when we had this sales meeting, it was more about just selling products to people, whether they needed them or not. They weren't in the business for financial planning. They're in the business to sell life insurance. And so if you had life insurance, I would come and sell you some more. And if you had that more, I'd try to sell you some more. It was a selling business. And so what I've seen in my career is that where you really didn't care whether they needed it or not, you sold it to them, to the point now where the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States has enacted some regulations to govern ethics. Also, the CFP board has self-regulatory principles to follow of ethics. And frankly, all of us in this industry should follow our own ethical principles, but there are requirements now to act in an ethical way, to put the best interest of the client first, and not not just try to sell them another product just simply because you want to make money. So I've seen those big changes over the course of time in the principle of ethics.
Right.
I guess that's the blessing that we get here as members of IARC, because one of the lines in our code of ethics is to really, we have to put ourselves in the shoes of our clients. So we don't just give them things to earn out of them. It's really all about helping. It's quite nice. Thank you, Barry.
Oh, you bet. You bet. It's really about people's lives. It's about helping them use the limited time and the resources that they have, and you don't want to make a mistake. They can't afford to make a mistake, because if you do something wrong for them and they're 3 years from retirement, they may never recover from that.
Correct. Right.
So it's very, very important that we follow ethical behavior. The quality of the life that they will live going forward in large part is going to depend on how you treat them and how you guide them. And so it's a weight of responsibility upon us to always do the right thing.
Right. So I see what you mean, Barry. Here in the Philippines, and I think it's everywhere, money can be an issue wherein people here in the Philippines, it's actually hard to talk about money. It's like taboo. So, because it really involves a lot of trust, just like what you said. If that's for their retirement and it's just 3 years away, we cannot fail them in that way, right? They trust us that they're going to retire with the money of the amount they put in, or even more, right? So, and it has evolved throughout the years, even as you saw it as a little boy when you heard the meeting. It's not just about selling financial planning, but it actually became selling insurance already, right? So which was wrong. So how or what, is there a place where the government stepped in? Is there like they place some certain regulations because they seeing how it flowed throughout the years that the agents began changing how they sell insurance, and how does these government regulations impacted the ethical behaviors of these agents?
Well, good question. And I know that many companies, insurance companies and financial planning companies, have enacted training for their advisors and agents to enhance and increase the ethical behavior. So there has been a lot of improvements just simply through internal training processes. But in addition to that, government agencies in the United States have actually taken it upon themselves to put in place very serious ethical standards. I wouldn't call them maybe ethics, they're regulations that you must follow. For example, and I referred to this a minute ago, but the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States recently, in fact, it was just a year ago that it was put in place. It's called the Regulation Best Interest.
Okay.
And it's a whole series of things that a person must do to act in the best interest of their client all the time. And there are things you have to provide the client, disclosures you provide the client, as well as you have to provide really good analysis so you can help a client make good decisions. And then, of course, you must keep really good records going forward if you haven't already been.
Was that effective? Did that change the behavior somehow?
Well, I think it's been effective. You know, the truth is, people, are always trying to do things their way, the easy way, and frequently people will say, maybe I can do this, and I'll get around the rules. And our philosophy is just follow the rules and build it into your business practice, build it into your system, build it into the way you communicate with your clients, so that it's easy and it doesn't become a burden to either the client or the advisor if you just build it into your system.
Right. Like what you said earlier, like it's not what you do, it's who you are. So
That's right.
So yeah.
And
This regulation best interest was really put in place for people who are not ethical.
Of course.
Because people who are ethical, they didn't need it.
Right.
They've always been doing it the right way.
Correct. Right.
Barry, how do you see like profession organizations like IARFC, CFP exert influence on the practitioners, on us practitioners, in terms of being or imbibing that ethical culture? Because you have regulation, which is like your stick. So
Right.
How would you now look at these professional organizations to bring the carrot and do more of a soft touch in terms of influencing or imbibing that ethical culture?
Well, I've seen ethical culture. The ethical culture. I'm going to stop for a second. I've seen the ethical culture in the United States actually improve for probably the last 40, 50 years. When Lauren Dutton, who is known as the founder of financial planning in America, when they started their organizations, they always had a code of ethics or a code of principles that they would follow. So they did a good job of helping to build ethical principles into the financial planning business from the beginning. I know my company, the founders of my company, Jack Walsh and Keith Daly, my father, they put together a code of ethics. And so, individual companies, organizations, as well as self-regulatory organizations like the IARFC, they have put in place codes of ethics, and people who join those organizations are bound to abide by them. And so that is, I think, much better than government regulation and oversight. And it's been in place for a long time. And the people that have been members of those organizations and members of companies that had codes of ethics, they've been doing the right thing, I think, for 50 years or longer. As I said, the government oversight and the government involvement, I think, had to come in place because not everybody was obeying ethical principles and rules. And therefore, there had to be some protection for those who were being harmed by their behavior.
Speaking of Lauren Dunton, Barry was the awardee in 2020 of IARFC's Lauren Dunton Memorial Award. Wow. So that's an achievement, and that shows how committed he is to exemplifying and sharing ethical behavior to fellow RFC professionals.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's obviously a great honor. And anytime you receive an honor like that, you always feel you didn't deserve it. But it's really awesome to have been honored that way.
If like whenever, because of the regulations and the expansion of the industry, are there expectations from clients that on certain types of behavior that need to be shown by their financial consultants or financial advisors?
I would say yes. In fact, I think clients, if they really understand financial planning, they should totally expect to work with someone they trust, to someone who will have their interest first, with someone who will always help them do the right thing. You know, that has to become the standard. And unfortunately, it's not always. If you don't mind, I'm going to share a brief story, but I have a new client that I've been working with, and he worked with I'm going to go ahead and say this on this podcast. He worked with a CFP, and I got into his material and what he had, and I was really surprised that this person had sold an annuity to him that had a very long surrender charge. And he said to the client, this annuity is guaranteed to get 9% return ongoing. And so the client told me this, and I said, well, I doubt that's true.
Right.
And I said, get me the annuity, let me see the details. And I looked into it, and of course it was not true. And of course it was the person had been lied to. Now, I hate to say that about another person who's a professional and has a certification.
Right.
Just because a person has a certification and they swear that they will abide by the ethical principles doesn't mean they will always.
Right.
A client deserves to be served by someone who will abide by those policies and always do the right thing. You know, in this case, I don't know the person's situation, that CFP's situation. Sometimes people get themselves into a place where they need money. You know, the advisor needs money. And he thinks, well, maybe I should sell this annuity because it has a really high commission instead of another product that may be better for my client, but the commission is lower. And, you know, people get themselves into these ethical gray areas, if you will, and they justify their decisions because they need the money.
Right.
And that, when you do it that way, it becomes about you as the advisor. It doesn't become about the client.
Right.
And so, fortunately, we've been able to correct that situation. But we see things like this in business from time to time, where unethical behavior has taken place, and unfortunately, it usually causes real problems for the client and sometimes for the advisor.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's at the core of all of this is making sure that what we do is in the best interest of the client, and that we choose what is best for the client. We do our recommendations, do our evaluations as if it were for us also, right? And there may be situations, as you've mentioned, that you will be placed in a certain situation where an ethical dilemma might arise, and you have to decide between the money and your client. And I guess that's where values and where support would come in, because if you have support from your fellow professionals, then there would be solutions, win-win solutions for both you and the client. And I guess this is not something that you can do alone. It's something that you have to do, probably seek help with your fellow professionals, and somehow that builds again, supports your growth as an ethical professional, and at the same time, you are also sharing that experience with other people.
Well, that's true, and I think it's important for organizations like IARFC and like the Philippine chapter and chapters around the world to offer ethical training.
Mm-hmm.
So that they can understand the policies, the principles that are engaged in ethical behavior. That's very critical. It's very, very important. Another experience that came to mind, sometimes you get yourself in a situation where you're trying to do the right thing for the client,
mm-hmm.
but maybe it turns out to be the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And here's an example. I know of a situation where an advisor was working with a client, and he was trying to get them a higher rate of return on their investment. But in order for them to get that guaranteed return, the application had to be completed and submitted that day. So he couldn't get a hold of the person. He tried and tried and tried, and they were unavailable. And so what he did is he signed the client's name on the application.
Right.
And then he submitted it, and his motive was pure. He only did it so he could get them a higher return on their investment. But was that ethical? Well, clearly it was not ethical. It was wrong. In fact, it was illegal.
Yes.
It's called forgery.
Yes.
But the point is, I don't know why, but sometimes people get themselves in these situations and they begin to justify behavior that's not right. And yet, whether even if they're trying to do the right thing for the client, it can still be wrong.
Right.
It's a classic example of the end does not justify the means.
Boy, that's true.
And that's something that probably also we do experience a lot. We do have deadlines, we do have cut-offs, we do have due dates, and sometimes we just need to rush. But the client may take his or her own time. Mm-hmm. So I guess we have to also adjust to the pace of the client. I guess part of building that trust is understanding the client and anticipating his needs and his behavior so that we can serve him better. Because in the situation that you just relayed, I guess the advisor or the consultant just wanted to, well, he was well-meaning, but he did not have enough knowledge of the behavior of the client to be able to either anticipate it and then have the investment made before due date, or probably explain to the client that we missed this opportunity, but we can have another one. So I guess that's part of forming that ethical culture, that ethical behavior in each one of us.
Well, that is very good. And people like honesty, even if the news is bad.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if you are a financial advisor and you have to tell your client, like you just alluded to, we missed an opportunity here because I couldn't reach you. Then going forward, they're going to know that you're always going to be honest with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you sign their name to a document, even though your intentions were good, they're going to always wonder, will you do that in another situation?
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
They'll be thinking, if you do this to me, then you probably are doing this to everybody else, all of your clients. So it's going to be pretty dangerous dealing with you, right?
I have another question for Barry. There are quite a lot of new and young advisors here in the Philippines because most of the companies in the life insurance industry are recruiting millennials like John here. So how do young advisors build their ethical standard status? Because young people love to hear about ethics. It is in line with how they feel, but they always want to do the right thing for people. But of course, since it's an older generation teaching it to them, and there would be people when we're being recruited into to becoming financial advisors, they would always say that we always look at the mission before the commission. But when it comes to crunch time and there's a contest, perhaps, or a trip, an incentive trip that is being on cut-off already, people tend to look the different way from that statement. So, what would you advise young advisors like John here? How do they build up their ethical standard status?
Well, John, all due respect, but millennials and all young advisors, I think they really are starting kind of where we all started when you come into an industry like financial planning. You have to know what the rules are. Now, I know I have kids that are millennials, and they're different than I was, and they seem to be more purpose driven in their life. They're not as motivated by money. At least my children are not as motivated by money as maybe I was or other people were in my generation. And they also tend to not be real product driven. They're not trying to just sell products. I think because they're purpose driven and they want to, follow ethical behavior. But I think for young people, providing a training track for them to at least, first of all, be aware of the ethical principles that they should follow, and then continue to provide that ongoing exposure and training to these ethical principles. Once a person starts in our business and they follow these principles, and it's ingrained not only in their mind, but in their business flow or their business system, then it's easy. It's easy to follow those ethical principles. In addition, we have an obligation to attract the next generation, not only of advisor, but of client. And young clients, whether they're in our industry or not, they're just a client. They are a lot of times children of our current clients. And if we treat our current clients with high ethics, we do the right thing, we reach out to the children of our clients, they're going to know because of the experience their parents had that they're going to have a positive experience. So, we must earn the business. And, we can only earn that business if they trust us.
Right. Right. Okay.
Now, John, you're a millennial. So am I on the money on that, or do you see a different perspective there?
I can see actually two things. So one is if the kid is actually like already purpose centered in the first place, then that's not going to be an issue. Ethics will always be there because his purpose is not money, but actually for the clients. It's actually for the benefit of the client. So another thing that I see though is it could be like in the Philippines, one of our there's a lot of insurance advisors here. More and more, they're millennials nowadays. Unlike before, it was the elderlies who sell insurance. But since commission is quite high, there's a lot of, I think, people can be blinded by money, by how attractive it is, and then I can see your point from the example that you gave earlier, wherein the agent may need the money so that he would go for the commission first for himself rather than for the benefit of the client. So there are two things that I see right here. So it depends really on the person. Okay. So
well, I would agree it does. And therefore, this great need to help teach ethical principles to young people so that when they get into that situation, and I promise you they'll all be there at some point, they will know what to do. And they've already made the decision because they've decided that no matter what, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to act in this ethical way. I'm going to follow these code of ethics that I've agreed to support.
Right. So I am also seeing that throughout the years, there could be a lot of like performers, but eventually they'll die out of the industry very easily because they made it the wrong way. They didn't follow certain ethics. So the client's insurance keeps on lapsing because they didn't understand why they got it in the first place. So there are those cases, right? So I see the different cases that you gave earlier. One is the one wherein the client thinks of his commission first. That can be solved by trainings and like good companies hopefully would give him some good ethics as well, plus all the regulations that the companies give him. And another thing that maybe the client is unaware, like the second example that you gave, although I don't think he's unaware, he was aware that he forged, but he was thinking for the benefit of the client. Maybe moving forward, that person can learn to respect that the client missed that opportunity because somehow he missed one signature, right? And there are also ways in which we all, I think, could be possible to make mistakes wherein we haven't learned enough. Like for example, we didn't know that annuities would give not guaranteed amounts of percentage of interest, right? So we haven't learned that yet, and we keep on talking to a lot of clients already, promising this is guaranteed, this is guaranteed. In the meanwhile, it really is not. So and that's where learning comes into place. But another question that I would like to ask, Barry, is what about the client side? Are there any signs wherein they would see that, oh, okay, I can trust this? How would they know? Are there specific signs that they would look for?
Well, I think that I'm going to go back on some 4 principles that I've followed in my career that I think if you follow those 4 things, those 4 behaviors, the client's always going to feel like they can trust you. Okay. They're always going to rely on you because you are reliable. The first one is, and these are going to sound really basic, but the first one is show up on time. In other words, if you have an appointment with somebody, arrive on time. And, particularly with retirees, I don't know about in the Philippines, but in the United States, when they have a meeting set up with you, they don't come on time. They get there early.
Yeah.
And if you arrive late, then they've already been waiting for a long time. So show up on time.
Okay.
The second thing is do what you say you're going to do. If you tell someone you're going to do whatever it is, you make sure you do it.
Right.
And then third, finish what you start. And if you always finish what you start, you'll be a reliable person. And then the fourth one is say please and thank you. Now, those sound very, very basic, and you probably have heard those before. They're not new to me. I mean, I learned them many years ago from the strategic coach. But it's very important to have those habits. I call them the referability habits, because if you act those ways, then a person knows they can rely upon you.
Right.
Okay. Now, you connect that up with the ethical behavior, the ethics that a person teaches, such as in the IARFC, we have a code of ethics. If you take these 4 principles I just mentioned, and then you marry them up with these code of ethics, in other words, these are the principles in which I conduct my business. And if you establish that as your business procedures, and if you build it into the way your business flow happens, then you're going to be fine. And if you get into a compromising situation, you'll know what to do.
Thank you for that. I think that applies to a lot of things. Like even if it's just a plumber, you would like to have those 4 things with that person.
Oh, absolutely.
Now,
yes.
Especially with financial advisors, because we deal with money.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Clear,
Ryan or Sir Boyet?
I think that's all of the questions, unless we want to ask some more. Susan suggested something off topic. Why is Money Concepts so invested in the IARFC financial planning competition?
John asked a minute ago about young people, about training young people, and we see with the IARFC's commitment to the financial planning competition with these college students, this is so very important to teach and to train them and to bring them up and to help them to establish good behaviors, good practices, and give them an outlet to practice the theory that they have been taught in the university. So we're very committed as a firm to helping the IARFC do that and to give these young people an opportunity to really advance their capabilities and to be exposed to other professionals in the industry. These students are at a very important transition in their education. In most cases, they're nearing the end of their university experience, and now they're looking forward to go out into the world and to be in the financial planning profession. And so that financial planning competition really opens a lot of doors. So we're very committed to that. We also, I wanted to mention this somewhere during this broadcast. As a firm, Money Concepts, we follow a principle called committed benevolent interest. And those are words we don't really hear very often anymore, particularly that word benevolent. When's the last time you used the word benevolent? We believe as a firm that we should actually show forth love to everyone. And if you have that attitude in your heart, when you're working with your clients or with anybody, if you care about them more than you're caring about yourself, you're always going to help do the right thing for them.
Right.
So one of our goals as a firm is to also expand this idea of, this committed benevolent interest and maybe you don't want to use that in the Philippines, but you know, you want to expand that idea of having love for the people that you serve. And it sounds funny sometimes to use the word love in business, but it is actually an amazing, powerful thing when you actually do use the word love. It's not romantic love. It's love for what you do. It's love for those you serve.
Right.
And when you actually love what you do and love those you serve are going to love what you do, and they're going to always want to work with you because they know that you are there to serve them. You're not there just to sell them something.
Exactly.
Right.
They feel
As you exhibit the love, they will share the love by bringing in more of their friends or their colleagues or their family,
Yep.
and to experience the same thing.
Yep.
So it builds trust.
Mhm.
It strengthens your practice, and at the same time you build that circle of trust with your clients.
Well, that is true. And we're seeing the results of that here in our firm. So I trust that you all, with your clients, are doing the same thing or something very similar. So I don't think I'm talking about a new concept here.
Yeah.
But, you know, if we can all exhibit that behavior and encourage others to do that, we can really make a big difference on the financial planning profession. To do the right thing, to encourage ethical behavior.
Right. I really hope that is the case for a lot of people. I find in the Philippines that the industry, money specifically, is taboo because there are a lot of people who takes advantage of selling these financial instruments and just thinking about their own benefit, and that is causing harm to to Filipinos because they are not anymore trusting. So they're not anymore open to other financial vehicles or instruments out there just because their trust was broken by just a certain person. The product is really great, the plans are really great, but when not studied well and given for their specific goal, it's gonna ruin not just that family, but the whole Filipino people, like the community. So it's very important that when we do things, whatever we do, even outside financial industry, we do it in love, like in service for others, just like how, and it's gonna return to us many folds because they're gonna think like, go to Kuya Ryan, go to Barry, go to Sir Boyet because he has your best interest. Yeah. So I hope that's gonna spread really.
Well,
Yeah,
that's powerful, and that's obviously what we're trying to engender here.
Can you share?
Word gets around very fast, right, John? When you do something wrong or you do something right, especially if it's wrong, it gets around faster, actually.
Yes. Actually, it's ethics is like the first story that you told us, Barry, wherein I think it was Mike. I'm not sure, the one who caught you. Ethics is like that person who caught you right in time. But if your ethics is not there, if you're not ethical, you're gonna fall fast.
Well, that's
And
right.
hide.
And that's why I love that belay story, because that belay they have your life in their hands, and you're in their hands, and that's true with us as financial professionals. You know, if we do the right thing, we can change somebody's world, not just in their lifetime, but for the many generations to come.
Exactly.
So the impact of what we do is very powerful, and we just have to always remember that if we can do the right thing, we're going to have much better impact than if we just, you know, make a quick buck and move on to the next person.
Right.
Very true. Very,
It's very true, and I agree that once you develop that trust, you have that ethical behavior, ethical culture. It just creates for you what I call multi-generational relationships. in my experience, I've had that where uh, you're serving the parents and now you're serving the children and the grandchildren, and as the patriarch passes, the father passes, you're always there at every important moment of their life. You are silently behind them because they know that you have their backs. If anything happens, you're there to make sure that nothing will fail, that the transitions will happen as smooth as they want it to be. There won't be any problems.
Right.
And like in my case, the only thing that probably that they were looking for is that comfort, that everything is taken care of, and at any point in time, whether it's sickness, it's an accident, or like any happy occasion, an anniversary, they can call on you to be able to celebrate or even to share their sadness or their misery, because they know you're actually part of family. That's something that probably we learn and we grow into with these relationships we cultivate over time.
Yeah, that's true, and that's very powerful. That's one of the most fun reasons why we should be in this profession, because we not only are helping people do certain things, but we become part of it. And I've had clients, and maybe you have too, that have said, Barry, I hope you live longer than me because you know more about me than I know about myself. You become very integral in their circle,
Wow.
in their family, and in their decisions.
Wow. Yeah, and that trust is just priceless. Yeah. Money you can earn anytime, but that trust, building that amount of trust, is priceless.
Well, that's
The
true.
hard-
It's priceless,
The
and it's,
currency that's hard to earn.
yeah, that trust is worth a lot of money. Because if you always do the right thing, you're over the long haul, you're going to make more money and have more clients, and everybody's going to be happier, and you won't have lawsuits, and you won't have all the problems if you just do the right thing.
Yep.
Very true. Very true.
Any
That's-
final words with regards to ethics, Barry?
Well, let me just say that kind of repeat almost what I've already said, but that is, if you have guiding principles behind you in your business, and you treat people with this, this committed benevolent interest, this ethical approach to business, this love, you're going to have fun. You're going to enjoy the business. You're going to make plenty of money, and you're going to have fun doing it. So ethics are fun, and ethics are really good business.
It's a great point, because we always think that these ethics are rules and rules are not fun. That's a great point. I love that. Okay. All right.
I learned something new again tonight, John.
What's
Thank
that?
you, Barry.
You're welcome.
Well, you can have fun with ethics. When you look at ethics, it seems like it's just a lame subject, or it's what you said, it's just about following rules. But they are guiding principles that will sort of give us that true north on how to help our clients, I guess. So it's good that we have Barry around, and I hope more new advisors, new financial advisors would listen or watch this podcast so that we can help more Filipinos become be better in how to use their money, so that we can have wealthier Philippines in the future.
Correct. And if someone is like nanliligaw with you, kindly check the four things that Barry said earlier, like signpost. Is this person always on time? Is he doing what he promises to do? Is he what are the other things? Please and thank you. And what's the other one?
Finish what you start.
And finish what we start. So those are the signposts. Okay. Sir Boyet.
Well, this has been a very, very interesting discussion, interesting conversation. We all learned that ethics is not just about rules, but it is more about love and in having the best interest of our clients in mind. And being ethical is not just being goody-goody, but be serving your clients well. And in serving your clients well, it will serve you well also. Because the more that you care about your clients, the more it will be good business for you in terms of being a financial consultant. The very important aspect of trust. Trust begets confidence, begets more clients, and it also, I mean, if you have built already that credibility, that reputation, that integrity, chances are you will not go out of that circle. You will just continue behaving and doing according to the ethical behavior, the ethical culture that you have started with. Because you have gone, it has become already more of a habit, more of part of yourself. So ethics is not just rules, it's something that you cultivate and grow, and when it grows, it takes over you. And now, I guess, aside from behaving in an ethical behavior, you infect other people with the same standards because they see that it works. It works for clients, it works for the advisor.
Yeah, well said.
Thank you very much for gracing us tonight, sharing us your thoughts, your experience, and your wisdom. Thank you very much.
It's been wonderful to be with you. Thank you as well.
Again, Fred, this is such a nice topic. I was wondering before when I got the topic, what are we going to talk about? But it turned out very well, and I learned more things than I actually thought I would. Thank you, Barry, for your time. But we are trying to cook up something. So if you also have suggestions on what we should talk about or discuss in the next episode, please do feel free to type it in at the chat box below. So we are interactive as much as we can. So we do listen. So we hope that you can give us suggestions as well. And if you also want to give us pointers on how to improve, it's also a welcome for us.
All right. Thank you again, Barry Daly. Ethics, such a wonderful foundation. On behalf, again, of our executive producer, Ms. Grace De Vera Escobar, this is RFC Tuesday podcast saying,
it is better to be in the know than to be the last to know.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.